Success! Oh, hi. Glad you're here. I'm glad to be with you. Let's see how fast we can go through some of these films. These are the most impactful films that I saw that were released in 1998. I didn't necessarily see all of them in 1998, most of them. But these films shaped me. It's an ongoing series. Spoiler alert, in case you didn't know. I got notes. Forgive me. Let's see. Where shall we begin? Like I said, some of these I think I could just, mention quickly. He says. Oh, by the way, the last video, the 1997, I spoke of Spawn, the movie. And I forgot to mention the soundtrack to Spawn. It's probably more influential than that movie. I had a great story about seeing that movie while on vacation with my mother and how upset she was about that. But the soundtrack to Spawn, the movie, 1997, is unreal. It is still one of the greatest soundtracks I've ever heard in my life. We got, oh my gosh, so many bands, so many great songs on that soundtrack. Filter, Marilyn Manson, of course, oh man, there's like Henry Rollins, there's like everybody is on that that soundtrack is unreal. It's even got a rare Metallica song that I actually like. But first and foremost, it's got a Korn song. Korn is my favorite band of all time. Spoiler alert, I met them. Kick the PA. Like, the Spawn soundtrack is phenomenal. So, I have to mention that I forgot to mention that because the Spawn soundtrack, look it up. It's amazing. Like, what an album. That album makes the movie look like garbage. But the album is phenomenal. Like, what a rare occurrence for a soundtrack to a not so great movie, an okay movie if you ask me, to be that one of the greatest soundtracks, collections of bands and songs of theirs that you can't get anywhere else ever. Spawn soundtrack, check it out. What's it called? Spawn the album. Gotta love the 90s. So we'll talk about, let's see, what do we got? Half Baked came out in January of 1998. Half Baked is a classic. Back then, well, maybe not back then in 98. I probably didn't see it till its VHS release, yada yada yada, when I was a teenager and getting Half Baked myself. Great movie. One of the greatest comedies I've ever seen to this day. Holds up. I love Half Baked. As far as stoner comedy, Half Baked is number one. Top of the cock of the walk. And always will be. Looks like February of 98 was Sphere. Starring Sharon Stone, Dustin Hoffman, and Samuel L. Jackson. Way back when Samuel L. Jackson wasn't Samuel L. Jackson, he was just that guy that seems to be in a few things. I remember seeing Sphere in theaters, and I was like, whoa, like that. Oh, and it's got what's his face? Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna remember his name, so forgive me. But excuse me, Cotton Weary from the original Scream trilogy. Yeah, good for him. Great movie. I just remember seeing that in theaters, and I still have a vivid core memory. Let's hope these last. That's why I'm going over this stuff, because I want to express these core memories before they go bye-bye. I just remember sitting in that theater, Sphere. The theater located where I currently work. And just being blown away. Saw it by myself. Saw a lot of movies by myself at that age, because no one wanted to go with me, and I'm like, well, that's not going to stop me. But Sphere really hit me. Like, what a very engaging, unique experience that I'd never had before. Good time. I love that movie. Sphere. It had a great twist. It was one of my first memories of a movie being like, whoa, wait, what? Threw me for a loop, and then I wanted to see it again, knowing what was really going on. Great movie. It's a great movie. Check out Sphere if you haven't seen it. Let's see. March. There we go. March. March of 98, The Big Lebowski. I don't really need to say much. It's The Big freaking Lebowski. It's the Coen brothers' best film, if you ask me. It's one of, if not the greatest comedies of all time, if you ask me. It put Jeff Bridges on the map as the dude, not just Kevin Flynn from Tron, but the dude. And it's the freaking Big Lebowski. What an amazing film. Moving on. I could do an essay on that movie, but so could most people who've seen it. So we'll just move on. April of 1998 was Lost in Space, the movie based on the TV show. Lost in Space, I believe, is very underrated. It's got Heather Graham, it's got Matt LeBlanc, it's got rest in peace dude who also was in the Sci-Fi Channel version of Dune. Anyway, I love that movie. Oh my gosh, I love that movie. When I was a kid, I begged my parents to take me to see that in theaters, and they did. But we had to go to back then, the movie theater we had to go to was a 30-minute drive, which at the age of 13, 15. At the age of 15, a 30-minute drive seems like the longest time in the world, which I have a theory about. I believe that the conception of time, comprehension of time, the younger you are, the longer things take, because something is a bigger chunk of your life, and then the older you get, the quicker they go by, because they're a smaller fraction of your life. Makes sense, right? So, age time. Much like my size time theory, but age time. That's why things take forever when you're young, and the older you get, the more they fly by. Because there's more, your ruler is longer, so an inch is less of a fraction. Anyway, makes sense. Lost in Space, I love that. I love that movie. I love that movie to this day, and it blew my mind as a kid. My parents took me, and I have a core memory of after seeing the movie, we had to drive back home for 30 minutes. And I still remember looking out at that highway, the very specific spot, train yard, everything going by, and just staring out the window thinking about that movie, thinking about everything about that movie and how much I loved it. And it just, Lost in Space. To this day, spoiler alert for Lost in Space. To this day, I think Lost in Space is one of the greatest stories involving time travel ever put to film. Yeah. I love what they did with time travel in that film. There's not time travel in it's complicated. Like I said, spoiler alert. But check it out. It's good. Ooh, Gary Oldman. Come on. Oh, and it had the girl from Party of Five. I was very obsessed with Party of Five at the time, which introduced me to Neve Campbell, Matthew Fox of Lost, and this girl who went on to do things like Mean Girls. I don't know about that, but she was in Lost in Space, and I was like, oh my gosh, look at her eyeshadow. She's all punk. I like punk, dark-haired chicks. Anyway, Lost in Space, good time. Let's see that April. What do we got? Anything in May? Got some in May, right here in May. All of these movies are literally 1 month after the next, so that's convenient. Oh, there's two in May. First, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Terry Gilliam. Look up Terry Gilliam's filmography. He's one of the freaking Monty Python. And he went on to make some of the greatest movies ever produced. But when you look up Terry Gilliam's filmography, it's such a broad spectrum of films, from comedy to sci-fi to drama to dystopian futures to like, seriously, I would list them, but just look up Terry Gilliam's filmography. It's insane. I'm talking 12 Monkeys. I'm talking The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, the film that Heath Ledger was making when he died. I give Terry Gilliam a third of the blame with Heath Ledger's death, but don't get me started on that. But Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is one of the greatest films ever made, if you ask me. It's still to this day. This was 98, and to this day in 2023, what is that? That's 25 years. Hey, it's the 25th anniversary of these movies. Fear and Loathing is 25 years old and is one of the greatest depictions of an adventure movie, of a buddy comedy, of a road trip film, and a drug trip movie. Probably the greatest drug trip movie ever made. Period. Like it really is. Like, holy cow. And I have a core memory of watching it on like DVD or something at my first apartment the last night I was planning on leaving and running away to Canada. I got to like the Colorado border and then came back. I think that was mostly for attention. But I just remember, I remember that. That was the last thing I wanted to do, was watch that movie, and then I'm out. Oh, and what's his face? Tobey Maguire. My favorite Tobey Maguire performance is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And Benicio del Toro. That was my introduction to Benicio del Toro. It's up. Up. It's up. I freaking love that movie. If you haven't seen Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I feel sorry for you. And you should go watch it right now. I don't care how, just do it. Also, okay, so this came out in May of 1998, and I watched it for the first time a couple weeks ago. It's called The Last Days of Disco. I had it on my back burner for the longest time. I'm trying to watch every single thing Chloe Sevigny has ever done because, you know, some would say I have a thing for her, but she's like my favorite person ever besides my son. Forget about actress, model, cool, chick, celebrity, everything. I love Chloe. So I've been watching a lot of her films recently, and one of them was The Last Days of Disco finally, and it turned out to be like one of my favorite films of hers. I think it's one of her greatest performances, and probably my favorite character that she ever played. And it's a really great movie, filled with awesome characters, dialogue, and philosophical conversations. There's a thing about the tortoise and the hare that really got me thinking. There's a thing about Lady and the Tramp in this movie that really gets you thinking. And it's also got the dude from Scream 3. Last Days of Disco. Forgive me, I have chip in my mouth. Let me, The Last Days of Disco is one of my favorite Chloe Sevigny movies that I recently discovered. And I'm planning on watching again here in a minute. Because what an amazing film. I absolutely love it. I don't like Kate Beckinsale, and Kate Beckinsale in that movie plays one of the most despicable, horrible, disgusting characters ever. How dare they treat Chloe. And everybody treating Chloe like garbage, and then all the good characters are like, oh my gosh, Chloe, I want her. Ooh, and at one point, Chloe kicks a dog. Fell in love. Anywho, so I wanted to mention that. June of 1998, The Truman Show came out. We're familiar with The Truman Show. Jim Carrey's big, turn into drama. Not really. It's straight up a comedy, and Jim Carrey's always been good at drama, and doing comedy is harder than drama, so stop being shocked when comedians can do drama, and be shocked when dramatic actors can do comedy. We all know how great Truman Show is, and it had a big impact on me then, blah, 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 yada, yada. But I have to mention it because it was maybe 3 years ago or so. I watched it with my son, who was like 7 at the time. And it was my first time ever having watched the movie after having been a father. And I bawled my eyes out at the end. Because it hit me like a ton of bricks that The Truman Show is an allegory for parenthood. It's literally about being a father. What's his name? Dang it, Ed Harris. Haha. Ed Harris, as the director, the creator, the overseer of the show, he's clearly he's watched Truman grow up his entire life, and he's been protecting him from the real world, as he says at one point. He wants him in this confined, contained environment, i.e., home. And he doesn't want him to leave home, because when your child goes out into the real world, you no longer can protect them. You no longer have control over their safety. But you have to let them go one day for them to have their own lives, their own journeys, make their own mistakes, and sometimes be in danger or get hurt. And there's nothing you can do about it. And that's the heartbreaking thing with him at the end, is he has to let him go. And when I realized this, growing up, I'm just like, oh, what a fun, quirky movie. But as an adult, father, oh man, that's just a hard thing for me to comprehend right now. My son is going to be 11 soon, and I can't imagine when he's 18 and leaving, going through that door, for me to no longer to be able to protect him. Because that's all I want, is to protect him. And once he's gone, I will be worried every moment of every day. I already am when he's with his mother. I'm worried about him every moment of every day. Because being a parent is like wearing your heart on the outside of your body. So I wanted to mention The Truman Show. Very impactful, seeing it as a father. August? Oh, they aired a comedy special on like HBO for Jerry Seinfeld, and Jerry Seinfeld had a bunch of stand-up material that he wanted to do one more set of and then write new material. So he had this special called I'm Telling You for the Last Time. But to coincide with that special, he went on tour. The I'm Telling You for the Last Time tour. There's even a CD, which I have. My father and I, who were big fans of Jerry Seinfeld and his comedy, and of course, especially the show Seinfeld, one of the three greatest four. You got Seinfeld, Office, Friends, Arrested Development. Those are the four greatest sitcom shows ever produced. Comedies, if you ask me. It does not get better than that. You could watch those every day for the rest of your life, and you will laugh your butt off nonstop no matter how many times you see any given episode. Friends, The Office, Seinfeld, and Arrested Development. So my father and I had the privilege during this tour of seeing Jerry Seinfeld live. And it was great. Went to the Pikes Peak Center. It was a wonderful experience. I have a great memory now, and again, why I'm doing this. I don't know how long that's going to last now that I'm turning 40 soon. But I remember at the age of 15 going to see this Seinfeld concert, and I retained like 90% of his entire act to this day. Like, I know almost every single joke, every topic, every routine he went through. So I can use that as my own personal material. Not that I would pretend like I came up with these jokes, but I can reference these jokes. And I'll never forget when we came home from it, my mother was asking us, oh, how was it? And my dad was like, oh, it was great. That's all he had to say. It was great. Ask Paul, because I was reminding my dad on the way home from the drive about the same as, Lost in Space. Darn those 30-minute drives. But I kept referencing joke after joke, and my dad's like, oh, you remember this stuff? That's what I'm afraid is going to happen to me. So I got home, and my dad's like, ask Paul. He'll tell you all kinds of stuff. And I literally, did the entire act for my mother. It was great. She loved it. She was laughing her butt off. Seinfeld has mostly clean humor, so I'll never forget recreating this Jerry Seinfeld act, I'm Telling You for the Last Time, for my mother after seeing him live. I'm very privileged. I'm going to do a video about, not that you care, about all the concerts I've been to and celebrities I've met, but one of the concerts was Jerry Seinfeld. I got to see Jerry Seinfeld live, and I'm very thankful for that. It was a great memory with my father, and then preceded by a great memory with my mother. September, September of 98, Clay Pigeons. I just want to mention Clay Pigeons because I love that movie. Janine Garofalo, Joaquin Phoenix, and Vince freaking Vaughn. One of my favorite dark comedies of all time. But when I eventually saw that one day, I just could not get over Vince Vaughn's character of Lester the Molester. Like, that's when I knew that Vince Vaughn could be funny, dramatic, creepy, and psychotic all at the same time. Was this the year Psycho came out? Am I missing Psycho? I don't know. If Psycho came out this year, I should be mentioning it because I prefer the remake of Psycho over the original Psycho. Yeah, I said it, but Vince Vaughn is amazing in that film. Vince Vaughn is not only one of the funniest people on the planet, but can play one of the creepiest characters on the planet. Like, Vince Vaughn is amazing. Between Clay Pigeons and Psycho, Vince Vaughn does not get enough credit. Especially Made. That's like the trifecta of Vince Vaughn movies for me. Clay Pigeons, Psycho, and Made. Watch all those in a row, you'll be like, man, this guy's a friggin' rock star, which he is. Anyway, so I just wanted to mention Clay Pigeons because that's a great movie. We're almost done. We're getting there. Because this I came across when looking up movies to refresh me to know what I need to go over. I have not thought of this movie since maybe elementary/middle school. But when I came across it, like a ton of bricks came back to memories. So thank goodness I'm documenting this. It's called The Last Leprechaun. Apparently, it's streaming right now on Pluto, so I'm going to watch it as soon as I pick up my son, because we just watched Warwick Davis's Leprechaun movie with Jennifer Aniston last week for St. Patrick's Day. And then I noticed there's another movie about a leprechaun that came out in 98 that stars Warwick Davis as a leprechaun. So he's played two leprechauns, one of them a murderous, insane person, and then the other one is a nice little leprechaun. So I got to check that out. But then I discovered The Lost Leprechaun, not with Warwick Davis, but I'm going to have to watch it because, boy, is the nostalgia going to hit me. Because I remember vividly that being a topic back in maybe late elementary school, if not early middle school. I just remember us watching it somewhere, somehow. I think it was in school. I think that's why I'm bringing up school. And it just, I have a memory. There's a memory back there somewhere regarding The Last Leprechaun. So I'm looking forward to watching that later today because it's going to trigger something. So I'm glad I at least stumbled upon it and a light bulb went off of, hey, I know that movie. But that's literally all I remember is that I have a memory. So I'm going to dig it out later. Nostalgia is the greatest drug ever. That's why we all crave it. That's why they make so much money off of it. Anyway. Last but... Oh, no, wait. We're not even close. Pleasantville. I'm just going to mention Pleasantville because I never saw Pleasantville with Reese Witherspoon and Tobey Maguire. And it's about this quaint, black and white sitcom characters coming out into the present day of, like, the 90s, I think? So they're like 50s people, sitcom black and white innocents coming into the 90s. And one day, this was a few years ago, I was like, hey, son, let's watch that. That sounds pleasant. And I had no idea while watching this movie with, like, my 7-year-old that the entire thing is an allegory for sex, and it's about sex. So that was a fun surprise. So, just so you know, that movie's about sex. Don't think you should just turn it on, watch it with your young ones. When I was younger, like 18, 19, 20, somewhere around there, it was when Jurassic Park 3 came out, so it was probably 99, 2000. I was staying with my brother. It was my first time leaving the city for a long period of time to go stay with them. Same state, but different city. I just had to get away from things for a while. And I had a grand old time with my brother, my oldest brother, way back then, back when we were best friends. And one of the things, we used to play games like we would quote movies and have to guess what movie it was from. We were so good at the quotes that we would always get it because we were big film buffs, as you can see with all of these 40 bajillion videos I'm making. And then when he found out that I hadn't seen a movie called A Simple Plan, he busted it out and we watched it together. And it's great. It's got, rest in peace, Bill Paxton and Billy Bob Thornton. And it's just a great movie about guys stumbling across money and then all of a sudden greed and guilt and innocence and all kinds of crazy things, and become a huge philosophical topic. Great movie. If you haven't seen A Simple Plan, it's a great film. But I also have a core memory, and forgive my vulgarity, but I have a core memory of, we would drink a lot, my brother and I, especially while watching these movies and playing games and having late nights. I went to the bathroom and I came back and mentioned how my pee was excuse me. Again, pardon me. I mentioned to my brother how my urine was crystal clear. And he just immediately responded with, "Oh, that's when you know you're drunk. When you're drinking, once your pee goes crystal, that's when you know you're..." I'm just saying that because that's a core memory that stuck with me. And I correlate it every time I pee. And I correlate it every time I drink, every time I drink pee, and every time I think of A Simple Plan. So pee, drinking, clear pee, and A Simple Plan are all connected in my brain because of that. Just saying. Lots of fun memories of those times. The last movie I'm going to mention took the cake for the most impactful film that I saw that was released in 1998. And the reason I gave it the credit is because I just remember seeing it on my birthday, my 15th birthday. This movie came out 3 days before my birthday. So that Monday, I believe it was summer break, I took my allowance and I went to the mall, the movie theater where I currently work. We go to this place to escape. Anyway, and I went by myself on my birthday because I wanted to see this movie because it had one of my big crushes, also from Party of Five. Aha! Full circle. Jennifer Love Hewitt. It had Jennifer Love Hewitt and Seth Green and the other lovely lady. And it was my first time seeing a quirky party movie. And it's, literally the entire movie is about a party. But there's even nerd references and Boba Fett action figure references. And I just remember I was so excited for this movie, especially it coming out the week of my birthday. I couldn't hardly wait. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Yes, the movie was Can't Hardly Wait, which I believe now is a cult classic. Back then, it was under the radar for at least a decade or so, but I will never forget walking to the mall. That's a core memory. Walking to that movie on my birthday. Seeing that movie on my birthday by myself. Nothing wrong with that, I guess. And I loved it. Great movie. It brings back plenty of nostalgic feelings when I watch it to this day. 15-year-old me. Just excited that he got to see that movie on his birthday. And it had Jennifer Love Hewitt. I might have mentioned that. She's pretty. She was pretty then. She's pretty now. I like her. So it had a big impact on me. Wow, the last video, the 1997 one, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. The last year the movie was as good as it gets because I wanted to see pretty Helen Hunt. 1 year later, here I am seeing pretty J-Lo. No, Jennifer Love. Jen Love. Miss Hewitt. And you little Seth Green. It was a good birthday. I like that movie. Like I said, it was like my first party movie, my first teen movie, my first had no idea what I was in for in my later teenage years when it came to real parties and teen stuff. Huh. I should have waited. Anyway, that's 1998. Good year. Okie dokie.